week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show. We're coming down the home stretch to 200. Mike, this is episode 199. We got a little bit of Churchill Downs action to talk about. How are you doing today?
Yeah, we do. Churchill is back. It's officially the first Saturday in September. We're going to run for some roses here. Yeah, I'm doing good, man. It's exciting. It's a good week, exciting week, a lot coming up. But yeah, it's it's the calm before the storm right now. It's about to get crazy once this thing starts going. We had the draw for the Oaks today. We got the draw for the Derby tomorrow, and we get to see the full cards, and then a lot of races this weekend. And it's going to be interesting because you're going to see Del Mar and Saratoga overshadowed for the first time ever when the two of them are running. So we'll see how it goes, man. But it's going to be a fun race. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I don't even know what's happening at Del Mar and Saratoga this weekend. They're going to run races. It kind of sucks because a good friend of the show, John Lees, is going to be doing the race calls at Del Mar, which I'm excited about. He does all the pre-race paddock stuff, and he's called races at Kentucky Downs. He's called it Lone Park before. I'm forgetting. What's the main one he does? Is it Remington? Will Rogers. That's what it was. So he's got plenty of experience. I'm excited, but the reason he's doing it is because Larry Colmus is going to be in Kentucky for the Churchill Downs. So, what are you going to do? It's one of those things that if they race it but nobody sees it, did you really win? We'll find out after next weekend.
Well, I guarantee they'll really see it, man. The thing is that everyone's going to be chasing at Del Mar after the Derby, right? You're going to have all the big players who, Derby is usually a tough day to win because there's so many horses in these fields. You're going to have some big winners, but you're going to have a majority of people losing money on Derby day. And so, man, you're going to have a lot of people chasing at Del Mar. I wouldn't be shocked if that the late pick four pool at Del Mar is massive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and hell, we'll take the money once you buy the inside track to the Kentucky Derby wagering guide, which is available for pre-sale right now at RacingDudes.com. You can take that money that you've earned and bankrolled after Friday and Saturday.
There we go.
Then you just go to Del Mar, get yourself some late summer bombs, and just have yourself one hell of a weekend. And I mean, honestly, if the way things are going to shape up and the way the guides usually do, you should be able to afford summer bombs just based off of your earnings from what the guide is going to give you on Saturday.
Yeah, hopefully Aaron can keep it rolling, and then we got Slim with the exotic picks. I'll have a pick 4 ticket in there. I mean, it's going to be a ton. It's just a cover to cover packed with information. So hopefully that guide does as well as it did last year and the last couple guides. And we just kind of keep this rolling. This is one of the bigger days, obviously, for us, and then one of the days that we focus on. So hopefully we can get this thing done and get some winners home.
Well, we did have the Kentucky Oaks draw happen earlier today, so later on in this show we're going to talk about. Also, if you're watching live or if you're listening along on a replay on podcast, or if you're watching the replay on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned to the end because Mike and I have a really exciting announcement for what we're going to do for episode 200, so we'll tease that out there. Before we get too far ahead, Mike, we've got some action to talk about from this past weekend. I also want to know, what's the best thing you saw this weekend?
Well, I'm actually going to say the best thing I saw is Del Mar running on a Monday, which they're doing right now, in fact. So you'll see my head looking over and watching this race occasionally. But, man, I'm so excited to have Del Mar on a Monday. It's really fun to kind of look forward to it. And it's, Monday, usually not the best race day. So to have a big-time track running and have a really good and challenging late pick 5 sequence, too, is absolutely awesome. So I'm excited about having some Del Mar to action that I can be able to watch on a day like this and being able to kind of look forward to that. And it really, I get jacked up for some of these weekday races, and in this case, Del Mar's coming through in the clutch, and the card is great today. We're about to go 2 for 2 as long as we can get this 5 home. The 2's kind of coming a little bit, so we're gonna need this 5 to keep on keeping on. Hey, he's good. So it's now he's swerving a little bit, and he's home again, and he's close, and we won. Okay, we're back now. I love
you won and lost 5 different times right there.
Well, he was up 3 lengths, and then the 2 who I didn't use, I specifically faded, starts peeling out a little bit, and then kind of makes it a little close, and then we have a couple bad steps, and then we're weaving, and then the wire comes and we won. So all good, all well it ends well. We have $15 pick 4 live in the Summer Bombs right now. So anyway, I love weekday racing. I really do. I like having one of these big tracks, and I think the pools today are going to be huge there too. So I'm excited to bet this card because everyone's focus in the betting world is going to be on Del Mar today. So you should get some monster pools, and again, they did a great job putting a good card together and kind of making up for the days that they missed previously in the meet to be able to get this out there. And I think your boy Pratt's going to have a day today. I'd set the over-under on 3.5 wins for him, and I would probably take the over.
Yeah, he's tied. I believe he's tied for with wins with Umberto Rispoli. He has 10 more mounts, and they're tied for wins with 37. Pratt's got the earnings. He's actually got him about almost $500,000 in earnings. But that's such a fun battle as watching those two. It's like I mean, we've been following the West Coast, so we know these guys are really strong. If you're international, you definitely know that Rispoli is a very strong rider. But watching these two just duke it out and getting national attention, I'm like, yes, this is what we need for Southern California racing. Is everybody focus on that. It's going to come down to the wire, man, because every time Pratt starts to come up there, Rispoli says, no. I'm a little older than you. He actually turned 30. I think he's turned 32 today. So if you like to play the birthday angle, Rispoli, man, watch out for him later in these in some of these races here today.
Well, Pratt just picked up a 1, so he now I think takes the lead by 1.
Yep.
And it's pretty incredible. He set the record for most stakes wins in a Del Mar meet on Sunday, and could lose the jockey's title. It's crazy to think about that he could be having this exceptional of a meet and go down to someone else. So it's awesome to see this type of battle. I love seeing what's going on at Saratoga with the Ortiz brothers and Rosario, and you got a good trainers battle there too. It's been a kind of blowouts in the past couple of years, so it's nice to see this everything being so close at both tracks late in the meets now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you brought this up. You're the first one I heard anybody talk about it. Maybe almost a month ago, looking at when we talked about Churchill Downs was going to say if you're a jockey riding for the Derby or the Oaks, you need to be here by a set date, and that was going to at the time it was going to be 2 weekends you would lose at either Del Mar or Saratoga.
Yep.
And you were on air when we were talking about it, and you said, well, if you're a top jockey on one of those circuits, you got to decide, do I have a mount that's actually going to win the Derby? If I'm not Manny Franco, if I'm not Mike Smith, do I think I've got a really strong chance, or do I want to stay here and earn money, better mounts, stakes races, more purses? So we saw everybody make their decision, and so that also is going to lead to some really great opportunities in the Kentucky Derby for some jockeys who may or may not have gotten those opportunities, at least this early in their career.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be. It throws some spice into the exotics for sure, because you have some riders that are riding new horses and don't necessarily know them as well. You could see some real interesting trips in the Derby, which generally you see some real interesting trips in the Derby anyway. But you got that just the little spices sprinkled on top there with the new jockeys and having the local jockeys riding some of these big horses coming in from out of town. So huge opportunity. I mean, we're going to have multiple jockeys that probably have career records earnings in that one day on those two cards. So be interesting to see who can step up. And you have someone like Mike Smith who comes in is going to get just ridiculous mounts in every single race because he's the guy coming in too. So you could see Mike Smith try and throw up a five bagger one of these 2 days as well.
Yeah, the agents will be definitely earning their keep, trying to make sure that they get the best possible amounts. Because everybody and their brother is going to want Mike Smith to come in and ride for him, right? I mean, you'd be crazy not to want that. So it'd be really interesting to see what happens. Best thing that I saw. I want to say but it's an hour early. My gal Betty is finally making her 2020 return. She's with Eddie Keneally's barn right now. She was with Roger Atfield before. She's tried multiple times to debut, and then Colonial Downs, one race got rained off, and then the next race Colonial Downs had to shut down because of the COVID being spread amongst the jockeys. So she's finally returning, and it's the last day in August. So she's kind of waited a while. Been a minute, but she's in the Satin and Lay Stakes at Presque Isle Downs. It's a sprint. I don't expect anything out of her. I just love that filly to death, and I'm so excited that she's still running. So I'm excited she's gonna be also. We talk a lot about. I bring up a lot of things that I've watched recently. Lovecraft Country. I haven't talked about it yet, but they're through 3 episodes now on HBO. That is one of the most bonkers show I think I've ever seen.
Bonkers good or bonkers just
bonkers?
Great?
Bonkers good, but it's bonkers crazy.
In a good way.
For me, in a good way. If you know anything about the author H.P. Lovecraft, his style was weird horror. So very odd, weird, strange things. Lots of alien creatures that look nothing like an alien thing that you would see in print or in media. And so that he's gained a big cult following. And this Lovecraft Country is based, there's elements of this horror, this supernatural. Sometimes it's his crazy ass monsters. Sometimes it's just flat out horror. The 3rd episode was basically like a haunted house style thing where just all sorts of, there's some sort of evil spirits in the house and they're trying to figure out. It's bonkers. I think it's an absolutely amazing show. I will say it's not for everyone. If you get through the 1st episode and you don't like it, don't keep going because you're not.
It doesn't change.
You're not going to like it.
Yeah.
It's a good solid hour each episode, and about 45 minutes into the first episode, it goes from it's set in like the 50s, and it's following an African American family, and so it goes through them dealing with racism as they travel through America to suddenly all of these monsters from other worlds show up, and at that point, if you're not on board when it makes that shift, and it's no shot at you that we just have different tastes. That's probably just not going to be for you. So maybe go find something different, but. Man, it's. I mean, we got into it when it first started, so we're gonna keep going. But it's one of those things that, especially if you could binge, man, as soon as one episode's done, you're like, I got to see the next one. What the hell's gonna happen next? It's a crazy ass show.
We'll have to wait for the first season to be over and then decide if I want to binge it or not. I mean, we have Magic and I, if you don't know, have almost identical tastes in movies
like
and whatnot. It's really weird. He sent me a text the other day to test it out, and I think we passed that one with flying colors. But yeah, it is uncanny. So if you like it, I probably should get on board on this thing. But I will wait to binge it. I'm a binge guy, man. I did it with The Last Dance. I like being able to just fly through it in one sitting versus having to kind of wait week by week. Like I haven't watched the last season of Billions, which I need to get caught up on, and that's all out now. So now I can start binging that. So yeah, I love going through it once it's done. So you got to let me know. You got to keep me updated if it finishes strong or not.
It's just it just keeps building, and then you're like, you get done with one episode, you're like, what the hell's gonna happen next? And then the next episode happens, and you go, well, what the hell's gonna happen next? After, I think it's 8 or 10 episodes. I think it's only 8 episodes that might be in it, but we're only through 3. And Mrs. Magic and I are like, we just got to see, we got to know what's happening. It's crazy.
Very cool.
Yeah, avoid social media because there's a lot of spoilers that are out there, but just don't go looking for anything.
Yeah, I won't Google it.
Well, we are going to look at, Mike, we're going to take a look at we had 2 Breeders' Cup prep races, Breeders' Cup winning races over the weekend at Saratoga and Del Mar. We'll look at those. Plus, there's going to be a sprinter for Steve Asmussen who looked pretty darn good on a big stage. So we're going to talk about that race and then react to the Kentucky Oaks Draw. And like I said at the top of the show, we have a big announcement regarding episode 200 at the very end. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, Mike, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go to Saratoga for Saturday, the big race that they had, the Grade 1 $500,000 Sword Dancer Stakes. Let me pull it up here if you were going to be watching with us along on StreamYard and make sure this is the correct race. It is. Perfect. All right. You had a field of 7 going in the gate here. Favoritism ended up being kind of split. Cross Border and Sadler's Joy, both 3-1, just to take over 3-1. Pedro Cara also 3-1. So if you're betting on like TVG, for example, it said that all 3 were the favorite. None of the 3 got the job done because Channel Maker, boy, he likes himself some cut in the ground, Mike. He got out to an early lead. Nobody pressured him, and he just kind of off he went. What'd you think?
Yeah, a cut in the ground is an understatement for what this turf course was. I would compare it most closely to a bog. It was a mess. I mean, and they had 2 great stakes races, and they moved one race off the inner turf onto the melon turf, and then ran this one on the inner turf. Going 3 turns over this course was pretty brutal because then you have the horses going back in the original divots on that 3rd turn. And I think that made a difference here, running down that stretch and back in those divots. On top of the fact that, look, no one could close at all on this turf course, but even more the fact that you had horses running back into these same divots and the course was just torn up going around the turn. It made it impossible for anyone to really close. Channel Maker seems to do this every now and then. If I remember correctly, he dead heated at Saratoga a couple years back or last year in one of these races when the turf was soft. And look, the guy has sneaky speed and is almost impossible to figure out of when he's actually going to show up and win. So Channel Maker is one of those more frustrating horses for me. But this race, I mean, first off, Pedro Cara, what the bleep? Like, I thought I was getting cute picking this horse on top of 10-1, and then
everybody else
literally with the 5-2, 2-1 favorite through a lot of it. And I'm just like, okay, now I have no interest in this horse. I don't even want to touch it at 2-1, 10-1. Like, let's talk. But man, that horse got hammered at the windows and then didn't even run a single step. I mean, like you were ripping your ticket up around the first of the 3 turns if you had the 7 here, and so that was pretty frustrating. What do we learn from this race? Not much. I mean, I'm not going to take very much away from this. I will say that the United Nations didn't come back great here with Aquaphobia and Corelli running where they did, and Corelli really having a disappointing effort here, sitting so close to the lead and sitting the perfect trip and not doing anything. Yeah, but I mean, other than that, you can't really take too much away from this simply because of the condition of that turf course. I mean, it was rough.
Yeah, I mean, just watching. I only watched a couple of races Saratoga on Saturday because I mean, the weather we talked about last episode. The weather was the reason why we went away from Saratoga, because there was no point in trying to do a whole show without knowing that which half of the field is going to be scratching out of all races. I'm actually happy and impressed that they kept as many horses in this race as they did. Like I said, Channel Makers, he's done this before. He was the lone speed on paper, and we talk about lone speed being tough. Plus, this was soft is an understatement. I think if you're in Europe, this would have been heavy. Like, it was just so hard for these horses to kind of cut through. I didn't even think about the fact that, like you brought up, that they made that far turn a second time, that they're running through their same footsteps, and it's going to be even harder for them to pick up. And maybe that's why you saw Channel Maker draw off. He does have really good form I think he's got 4 or 5 wins now in stakes races when the turf is really slog, if it's less than firm, which would make you think if you go to Keeneland and you end up getting a lot of rain in the fall for the Breeders' Cup, okay, maybe it gives him a chance. This horse has been in the Breeders' Cup twice before and hasn't done jack shit in the Breeders' Cup twice before. It's hard to think that unless it turns into a real heavy turf course and you don't get any real solid Europeans, because there's a lot of Europeans are going to love a really soft turf. It's hard to imagine him doing anything in the Breeders' Cup Longines turf, but this was a Breeders' Cup win in Urin, and that's why we're talking about it. Yeah,
I mean, I guess you could make a case if there's limited speed is the other reason that you would take him if the turf is off. I mean, he won at a mile and a half over the Belmont turf in the Turf Classic Invitational in 2018, running a career best 108 Beyer, going wire to wire on the lead, and then he won the Bowling Green at Saratoga over a soft course, going a mile and 3/8, and he was up close to the pace that day as well, sitting in 3 lengths back essentially for the majority of the race, and then closing to end up dead heating Glorious Empire, who had a stretch of just wiring fields race after race there for a while. So if there's not a ton of pace in there, that would be the other argument, where if he catches a soft turf and there's not a lot of pace, he's someone that definitely is relevant. But it's one of those things. One of the reasons I liked Pedro Cara, a lot of times these horses coming from Europe want the softer turf, want more cut in the ground, and this was that type of turf, and so that's one of the reasons I was leaning in that direction. You're going to have Europeans coming in, and the best Europeans, hopefully we'll have the best Europeans coming in to Keeneland to face off here, and in that case, that soft turf may not be as big of an advantage for Channel Maker as it is when he's facing American horses.
I mean, there's something to be said for the fact that this horse is, he only has 6 wins, but he's got almost $2.5 million in earnings. Like, when he wins, it's a race like the Sword Dance with a $500,000 purse. So he continues to show up, and he's frustrating as a bettor sometimes, at least for me, because when I see him, I'm like, he's probably going to go to the front. But is this the day that he's going to hold on? Is this the time he's going to make it, all the way around the trip? And if you're smart enough to figure out when to ride him and when to pass on him, you make a lot of money. I mean, he paid $18 to win here in a relatively small field.
Yeah, it's a great horse to own, a terrible horse to bet.
yeah.
That's just the bottom line. He got a 108 that he tied his career best Beyer in this race with a 108, and he's not a spring chicken here. I mean, he's up there now. He's 6 years old. So, but like you said, it's just one of those horses where the last 2 years this is his first win of 2020. He won 1 race in 2019. He made over $1 million in 2019. 8 races, 1 win, 1 second. $1.05 million in purses. That's pretty darn good for those stats, and it's because he's always in the top 4, but it's just tough to know when he's going to win.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there any other horses out of this race? I mean, it's a hard race to judge and a hard race to really, you could give excuses for just about anybody for not being able to close in on Channel Maker, right?
Yeah, I mean, Corelli is the one I'd be interested in. Ironically, I was disappointed in this effort, but I'm going to give him a pass because of the turf. I thought he had a rough trip in the United Nations compared to Aquaphobia. So he's one that I think has a shot taking a step forward, and you're going to get a price on next time in firm turf, especially if you get a weaker grade 1 or a grade 2 for him.
I mean, happy for Manny Franco, right? Jockey of Tis the Law ends up getting the another grade 1. It's always a great day when Manny Franco's riding to a grade 1 win. So we'll take that one. We'll move to Del Mar now, where it was much sunnier and warmer on Saturday. We're gonna look at the grade $250,000 Pat O'Brien Stakes. Is a 7 furlong dirt sprint. You had 7 males go in the gate. This is a Breeders' Cup winner for the Big Ass Fans Dirt Mile, which, remember, at Keeneland is going to be a 2-turn event. We were all over this, Mike. We covered the Del Mar pick 4 sequence. Both of us hit. Congrats to both of us.
They're in the lead. We're crushing it.
We are crushing it. This was it was a pretty chalky overall, a pretty chalky one. I think 158, I think, and change is what it paid. But we both went smaller tickets, and honestly, the places where we had the biggest opinion, which was with Micro Rhythms in the opener. That's it's not. I texted Aaron afterwards. I was like, he was 3-2, whatever. Aaron said, listen, you get a single home in any race at Del Mar, Mar, you're doing pretty good because it's not an easy track to get a single home. So we'll take that with the sequence. CZ Rocket, you want to talk about a Lazarus effect. They brought it up on Blinkers Off. It's just incredible what happened. Peter Miller claims this horse, and suddenly he looks the best he's ever done, and he's 6 years old as a gelding. So, properly places him at Churchill Downs and Keeneland, breaks the track record at Keeneland, which I forgot to mention when we were covering this. And then he comes out to Del Mar, and he goes to the Pat O'Brien Stakes. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of shock here. I think the biggest shock is this horse ends up being the even money favorite compared to what his morning line was. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I was surprised it was the even money favorite. I didn't think we were going to get 4-1, but even money was awfully short on this horse. And I guess the morning line did take into account the defection of the 6 horse here, Vertical Threat, who was 8-1 and would have taken some money there. So yeah, I guess it's a little bit, but going from 4-1 to even money with an 8-1 scratching is still pretty heavy. This is one of those things where I think Peter Miller just outsmarted the room more than anything else. I mean, you talk about it going back to his career best form. He ran, and this is 2018. I picked him in the forego against Whitmore and City of Light, and he got a tough trip that day. Ended up pretty wide, but he ran a 100 buyer that day. He ran a 103 the previous race, and then for some reason they tried to stretch this horse out. And you look at what he's running since then. It's 3 mile races, 3 mile and 16th races, another mile and 70-yard races, and 2 6 furlongs. I'm not sure why they tried to stretch this horse out. Peter Miller ended up claiming him on a 6 furlong race and hasn't run him at longer than 7 furlongs since. And he's been back to his old self, right? I mean, he was running 100 buyer, 103 buyer. And now, he's back to those type of numbers, and he's able to be successful at this sprinting level. Got a 97. I mean, we're still 6 points off the career best buyer. And he's winning grade 1 sprints. And so it's, I think that this is more of getting the horse back to what he's good at is what was the key was here for CZ Rocket. In this case, that's sprinting. I feel bad for Flagstaff. He's lost some tough races now, and I thought he was going to get home there for a second, and Pratt was able to just coax CZ Rocket by him right before the wire. Probably not going to use either of these horses if they're in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but it was a fun race to see the two of them, and our top 4 ended up I guess Great Expectations didn't show up for me, but your Law Abiding Citizen rounded out the try there. So yeah, this was one of those races that we were all over.
Yeah, so I'll touch on what you brought up about Peter Miller first. That was what I noticed too, is looking at his past form when I was doing the handicap and then looking at the recap. And Aaron brought up a great point. Peter Miller claimed from Alistair Jr., he's a good trainer. Look at what he's done with Thomas A. Todd to keep him this strong at age 7. But he was going long a lot, and I was like, what was there that Alistair just kept thinking, I need to run him longer to try and get him to route, or even a one-turn mile at Churchill. Peter Miller claims him, keeps him sprinting. That's the best spot. Miller did pretty much say after the race that they're probably going to go to the Breeders' Cup Sprint because Keeneland has that 2-turn mile set up. He doesn't want to try and stretch him out. I would look for CZ Rocket to show up probably in the San Anita Sprint Championship, try and get that Breeders' Cup berth for the sprint, and either way just to see how he looks. But here's a reason why I wouldn't play any horses out of this in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, aside from the fact that they just get a 97 buyer coming home. CZ Rocket's got a history of not breaking very well. And Pratt even mentioned that in the post-race interview. He said, we were prepared for him to not break well and for me to have to use him a little bit or try and get real cute with putting him in the right position. And he broke better than they thought. That doesn't give me a lot of faith moving forward that, all right, well, he's going to break well again next time, right? It's like, if Pratt had gotten off from problems, like, look, man, this horse, he hasn't broken very well. He broke well to great today. Do you have any confidence he's going to do that again in the next race? Probably not.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that's going to be against better horses too. I mean, let's be honest, this wasn't a field of world beaters going 7 furlongs either. So now I would argue that he's probably better at 6 or 6.5 than he is at 7. But he's had some success in his career at 7. So it's not like either distance is tough for him. So I agree with you that that's a tough horse to play back. And Law Abiding Citizens run 2 bang up races in the last 2 and just got nothing for it here with 2/3. I mean, he was absolutely the only pace setter. And you talked about this quite a bit on the show that didn't fade 2 back in the Bing Crosby. And then we got the Pat O'Brien here, and again set the pace and was able to stay close to these 2 horses when they rolled by. So another good effort from Law Abiding Citizen, but he's just a little bit over his head at this point. And no matter where he goes, he's going to face speed in these sprints. So it's tough that when you're facing horses that are just a bit better than you.
Yeah, listen, these are all great Southern California sprinters, dirt sprinters. I know 2 of these horses very, very well, and they ran like I thought they would. Law Abiding Citizen is, he definitely did better this time. It was nice to see. We talked about this on the show. It was nice to see he didn't have any ill effects from that stupid ass pace duel he got caught up in the Bing Crosby last time out. So he seemed to still have come out of this okay, but he's someone who, if he won, I would go, okay, he could at least handle a mile in the dirt race. Whereas with these other two, we'll sit back. Ronas and Sadler have always been pretty ambitious with Flagstaff when he's been healthy. Maybe he'll go to the Breeders' Cup, maybe not. I would expect to see at least the top 2 finishers out of this in the Sandia Sprint Championship, probably next late September, I think, but as they try and get into the Breeders' Cup. So, but again, like Mike said, there aren't that many horses here that were really, dying to play in either one of those races. But someone, if you are looking at the dirt sprint, maybe you want to take a look at this horse for Steve Asmussen, who honestly, it wasn't even on my radar until he won the Grade 2 Amsterdam Stakes purse of $150,000. Yopan is how I heard it pronounced, so that's what we're going to go with. Yopan. He was a 7-5 favorite, Mike. This horse was just, I don't think there was ever a single step he took where you weren't like, well, he's probably going to win this race. Gets the job done. Steve Asmussen, dirt sprint trainer. We know how that story goes. What do you think about Yopan here?
I thought he ran well. He didn't ever have a ton of pressure on him. I think that was really the key. And man, the Uncle Mo's were getting over that muddy track at Saratoga that day. I mean, that was definitely an angle you could play. Just play Uncle Mo on that Saratoga mud, and you would have had a good day. And Yopan was no different there. To me, the race was over when Long Weekend wasn't able to pressure Yopan early. I thought that was the key, that those two needed to hook up, and it would set up for Basin sitting right behind. And when they didn't hook up, you kind of knew it was over, because this horse wasn't going to give up this lead going 44-3, which sounds fast, but when you got a 2-length lead and you're just a naturally fast horse, that's really not that quick. I was able to come home in 12s from there, and Basin never had a chance to really close any ground. And Ortiz was kind of wrapped up. He knew he was beat when he got to the 16th pole. I'm interested in this horse moving forward. I don't think we know enough about it yet, because there are obviously in the dirt sprint, you're going to see other fast horses. And that's the big thing, is this horse has not been pressured on the lead and then had anyone run at him and see what you can do there. And Asmussen in his own barn has some monster horses that are going to be in that dirt sprint, let alone just the other competitors. So this is one of those horses that I would not be interested in a short price, but I also probably would play defensively if we're talking at like 4 to 5 to 1, somewhere in that range.
It's interesting because he didn't even show up until June. Yeah. That was it. He didn't debut. He debuts in June, and then he wins at Churchill Downs and goes to Saratoga and wins. And I think it was an allowance race. And then he comes here for the Amsterdam, or it stays there for the Amsterdam. He's very late to the track, and I think it'd be, I brought up the Breeders' Cup. I think if he goes there, you're seeing a tremendous amount of faith from Asmussen. I don't know if it's the best placing for him, especially because he's 3. He hasn't gotten the acid test yet. He hasn't faced anyone who could really push him. But Steve Asmussen did, after the race, compare him to Mitole, and part of it was saying, Mitole took him a while to get mature and to really handle, to grow into his body, to handle the physics of being that fast and hurting yourself. And so, they waited a long time to bring him around, but he then said this horse got a lot of the similarities of Mitole, and all that horse did was beat Omaha Beach in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. But it beat Chancellote in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Mitole was, just like a lights-out sprinter. And so for Asmussen, who his specialty seems to be dirt sprint horses, to compare this horse to Mitole, maybe not this year, but man, especially as a 4-year-old, look out for this guy. Yeah, and what's crazy too is modification that the dam this horse is out of was best going a mile and an eighth. So this is an Uncle Mo out of a distance mare. Wow. Yeah. So there may let's see if sprinting is really what this horse does long term. Because that's crazy to think about, because this horse has just run back-to-back 100 buyers and was able to just win a Grade 2. But the mare, and I just looked her up, and so I had her PPs up here. She ran second or fourth with a 97 in the Grade 2 La Canada, La Canada. She ran the Santa Margarita at a mile and eighth at Santa Anita. So she was successful sprinting as well, but they were trying her in grade stakes long. Even long on the turf in the Gamely and the Vanity. So his mare has distance too. And Uncle Mo obviously is an anything sire, but distance and turf. You could see this horse going long on the turf, long on the dirt, obviously dirt sprinting successful. So this horse has a huge upside, especially if it does have those other aspects to it, because you really put this horse anywhere. God, you want to talk about horses that you love to own when you can literally just go, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like an IHOP menu, because IHOP menu, it's pretty much, there's a million things. It's more like a Nobu menu. Everything is delicious and expensive. So a question came up in the chat that, who's the best sprinter right now? It's, I don't know, because CZ Rocket was good. Vacoma, I don't know. It's Vacoma or Volatile for me still, I think. And that's what Aaron has first and second in the divisional rankings on racenews.com. Volatile, when he won the Vanderbilt, you just had to go, wow. Vacoma's shown that he can handle shorter, longer. So, especially if you get to a 6.5, 7 furlong sprint, horses like Volatile or Yopon, who are so speedy, maybe they burn out a little bit, like we saw what happened with Chancelot. I don't know. Where do you see this dirt sprint division standing right now?
Yeah, I mean, Volatile to me would be the one I would take over everybody else, just because it's proven. I mean, that's the key thing here for me, is that right now that horse is proven. I do think Basin is interesting long-term sprinting. This is the first time this horse has sprinted since the Hopeful, and it ran a career best 97 Beyer. So it was on the Triple Crown trail, and we always talk about getting back to what you're good at. Basin got back to what he's good at here. Now, he faced a horse that had a better pace set up and was a little bit better on this day, but I expect Basin to keep taking steps forward sprinting. Now, and I also am wondering, they move him from the Asmussen barn to the Pletcher barn. Is one of the reasons you do that because of all the sprinters that live in that Asmussen barn. So I think there's a couple interesting angles of why this horse moved and what it will do moving forward. But I wouldn't shut the door on Basin. I think now is his chance to really take a step forward and improve based on what he is doing, what he's best at. Because he's best at one turn. He's best at the 6 furlong distance. We found that out. He's got early speed. He's got a closing kick. Let's see what Pletcher can do with him.
I'd honestly forgotten that he'd moved to Pletcher. I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot. He basically lost Basin and added Max Player within about a 48-hour span. Is that right?
Yeah, he lost Basin, added Max Player. And it was interesting, the workout reports, Basin was working with Dr. Post. So those two were the workout teammates for the last 2 works too. So interesting things happening in that Pletcher barn since Basin went over.
Yeah, well, I think that explains why you're seeing Dr. Post in the Jim Dandy then. He was working with Basin. That's okay. We'll see how he does there. Hey, the next thing we want to talk about, the Kentucky Oaks draw was this morning. I woke up I finally got to bed with about 10 minutes before they went live. First of all, thank you, Churchill Downs, for actually, A, meeting the time that you said you were going to do it, B, having no technical difficulties, and C, making it smooth, easy. We're in and we're out. You got the information you need, and it's like 20 minutes later. Like, this was the best virtual draw I've ever seen in my life. So thank you to Churchill Downs. Over at racenews.com, we have the full field along with morning line odds and the connections listed. I've got it here on the screen if you're watching along with us. Skydiver 8-5 seems like a fair morning line. Then you see Gamine even money. There's a big disparity there from what I saw. I thought it might be a little more 6-5, 8-5, 7-5, 8-5. But the chatter on Twitter, and something you've brought up plenty of times before, Mike, overseas, it's an even bigger discrepancy there, right? Yeah. I mean, Gamine is the clear clubhouse leader right now, and I think that's a big reason why you see her with such a big advantage, even money over 8-5 on Swiss Skydiver. What were your initial thoughts over this draw?
Well, the draw was interesting. I mean, Swiss Diver on the rail, obviously not the best position for her. I think that's one of the quick things that you take away from it. Gamine in the 5 post is a nice spot for her. I think she's going to have the chance to be the speed and go wire to wire if she's good enough. Morning line, I think, is pretty spot on. I mean, overseas, you can get Swiss Skydiver right now at 3.5 to 1. I mean, it is glaring how different it is when you go overseas versus what you're seeing here. So a big discrepancy there. But, to me, I don't think this draw really changes much. I think you really knew who the best horses were here, and the odds, the morning line odds specifically show you exactly who the best horses were, right? I mean, we've always thought this was a 3-horse race. It is a 3-horse race. We'll see what happens, but I didn't think there was anything huge out of the draw. I think Swiss Skydiver probably got the worst of it, though, being on the rail there.
She has one from the rail, but there's an asterisk there. There was a St. Ian Oaks. There were 4 horses, and she just kind of walked the whole way. And that was with Speech there, who's the 3rd horse that you're talking about. She gets 5 to 1. We're seeing some people chattering about that. You say a lot of things about Speech. She's lost to a lot of these horses. She was the one that's come closest to beating Gamine in any of these races. She was just a neck behind her in that race at Oaklawn that Gamine ended up getting disqualified for because of that positive test. And then you saw what Gamine did in her 2 races after that. Speech, man, she just keeps improving. I don't know how strong of a win candidate you think she is, but especially if you can't expect Gamine and Swiss Skydiver to both fire, Speech could price up those exotics, the trifecta, even without winning, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably, I don't know if I'm going to say, I would probably say that Speech is more of a must-use than Swiss Skydiver in this race.
Interesting.
And that's because of the price. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to go too deep here or single, and I think if they goes too deep, it's going to be Gamine and Swiss Skydiver. Right. So from how to add value to the multi-race bets, it's play one of them and use Speech and try and get Speech home, because 5 to 1 morning line, I'm guessing will probably go off somewhere between 6 and 8 to 1, will be more like 15 to 1 in the multi-race bets. And because of that, that to me makes a little more sense of trying to say, okay, look, I like one or the other. I don't want to go too deep and guarantee myself a sub 2-to-1 shot. I want to go too deep and have a shot at really blowing up this sequence versus kind of just, trying to essentially going too deep is buying the race here, right? I mean, that's how a lot of people see it. So I would try and be a little more creative with that second horse, and I would take a stand against one of the two. And for me, I'm not taking a stand against Gamine, which means that Swiss Skydiver is the one I'm leaving off my ticket, and I go too deep with Speech and Gamine.
The other horse I want to talk about is Donna Veloce. She shows up here. She hasn't raced since March, so she's going to be coming in from 6 months off pretty much. But she really hasn't done anything wrong in her career. Her debut, which, everybody's like, well, the layoff. Her debut, she won by 9 1/4. I'll never forget being in the press box and staring down and seeing her at the 8th pole, and every other filly was still trying to make the turn and going, I think we've got something special here with this horse. And then she went straight from that sprint into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and she almost won. She missed by a neck. And, she missed by a half length in the Starlet to Bast, who at the time was Bob Baffert's best horse. So, she's been very, very strong. She should be able to handle the distance. She's by Uncle Mo. And Simon Callahan has a really strong rate with horses returning off of layoffs, for horses that have won their last start. I think she's a really interesting horse here. And when I saw the price come up on her, I thought, 15-1, man. If that can hold on race day, I'm going to be really hard pressed not to throw a little win money on her. It would take a huge effort from her, but I think she's capable of it. Am I nuts?
No. I mean, I singled this horse in the Breeders' Cup, and a lot of people thought I was nuts. I thought she was home. I thought I was right for like 80% of that stretch.
It would have been pretty awesome if you'd been right about that.
Just missed too. But look, she has the talent to win this race. But a lot of it comes down to the tactics, right? I mean, if Gamine and Swiss Skydiver, there is a world where the two of them just bang heads on the front, and they decide this is a match race, and it becomes a meltdown. And that's how you see some like monster number come in here, is if those two just go crazy up front, and that really sets up well for Speech. I mean, because she's going to be sitting right behind those two and be able to close right into it. So, there's a world where this gets a little nutty in this race. I'm not one of those people that believe that world is highly likely, but there's at least a 10% chance that Gamine and Swiss Skydiver go out there in 46-1 and both quit.
Yeah. What is it? Dallas Stewart likes to say is, they still got to go out there and run the race. Mm-hmm. And he shows up here with his classic Dallas Stewart 50-1 horse. Is there any chance that he can get Tempers Rising to hit the board? Because if you're like you're talking about, Mike, if people go balls out trying to catch Gamine and it either burns out Gamine or the bunch of them burn out, Dallas Stewart, he's known for this. He can get those horses to really sneak up there and surprise you at a price. That 50-1, I mean, it might be a very small ticket that you use it on, but got to be at least a little enticing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably throw a kooky super through here. I mean, why not throw Speech on top and then throw, I don't know. Let's play something like 4 with 2-3 with 1, 2, 3, 5 with all, right? Where it's a cheap ticket, but man, if you can get that win spot and this place spot at a big number, it doesn't even matter if Swiss Skydiver and Gamine run third. Like at that point, you're cashing a big number anyway. So, there's ways to try and do that. I don't know if I would necessarily use Templars Rising. I may go with another horse, but I do think that there's a chance for chaos. Whenever you have the two best horses, who everyone thinks are the two best horses, who also both want to be on the lead, it can set up for chaos, right? And that's why you have to kind of take a longer look at this race, I think, than the Derby, where you have a little more straightforward favorite who's, I believe, perfectly set up to win.
You also have to worry if you're hard on Gamine, if you really want to use her, you got to think, is she going to be able to handle this distance? She did win by the mile on the 16th at that race where she crossed first anyway, but she was just barely ahead of Speech. All of her other races are sprinting, so as a bettor, you've got to figure out how much faith do I want to put in her at what's going to be sub-even money when the race actually goes off, with that big question mark hanging over. But then on the flip side, you could make the argument, Mike, that if she's just faster than all these horses and nobody catches her, it doesn't matter how long it is. She's just going to keep going because nobody's going to be able to catch her, and she's going to have too much too much distance between her there. So it's something that everybody's going to have to think about. Listen, we could sit here and talk about this race all day. We're not going to, but if you want all of our thoughts, make sure you get the inside track to the Kentucky Derby wagering guide, because we do have full bonus coverage of the Kentucky Oaks. Every handicapper with RaceNews.com will also be giving their top 4 selections for this and every stakes race on Saturday. And Aaron's going to have the full preview in there. He's going to have the full preview on the website starting tomorrow, Tuesday, so make sure you check out for that. I don't know. We got the Kentucky Oaks draw today, Mike. We got the Kentucky Derby draw tomorrow. I'm all locked and loaded and ready for that. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it is going to be a fun one. I'm just checking to see if they have any of the – they don't have the Oaks up anymore. Just to get an idea, before the draw, Gamine was -165, Swiss Skydiver was 3.5 to 1, and Speech was 10 to 1. So that was pre-draw on the international odds. So I would expect that Speech does float up from that 5 to 1 morning, and I think that those 2 horses are just going to get hammered. I think everyone's going to be betting those 2 horses, and I expect Gamine to go off at 3 to 5.
All right, Mike, it's time. We get to the end of the show. We tease this all along. The big announcement for episode 200 is going to be our next show. We're going to be doing it on Thursday at our regular time, which is 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. We're going to be doing it right here, streaming live. And how it's going to be different, folks, we're making this all about you. We're here because you, the fans, have supported us. You've loved us. You've interacted with us. Hell, you've been interacting with us while we're doing these live streams, which is fantastic. So what we want to do for episode 200, we're here for you. We're an open book. If you want to talk about handicapping angles, if you want to talk about a specific race, if you want to share your favorite Magic Mike Show memories, if it was the time that we couldn't remember the name of the Traverse Stakes when talking about a midsummer derby for 3-year-olds that would offer it for females, all sorts of flubs that we've had. It's all in good fun, but we really want to make this all about a celebration with you, the fans. So please, you can come join us live with the stream. You can submit your comments, your questions, and we'll just have fun. But if you're not going to be able to join it, we understand if you're international, if you're working, if that time just doesn't work for you on a Thursday, please send us an email, shoot us a tweet. We'll be tweeting this like crazy, so just leave a reply. If you have a question or a comment, something you want us to discuss on air, we'd love to talk about it. So episode 200 is all about the fans. Mike, this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast, man. I just to echo what Magic said there, we never thought this was going to be this when we started. So it's pretty incredible to get to 200 episodes and to be able to kind of even have this. So, and the reason we're doing it is because people want to listen, and the fans have been so awesome throughout this whole process. So I think we should. We're going to give you our email addresses. We're going to have the Twitter announcement up. You can comment under the Twitter. You can send us an email. Everyone who sends a question, we'll give out 4 or 5 Magic Mike T-shirts, and we'll just randomize everybody who sends a question, whether or not we use it, just so that we can give out some Magic Mike stuff too for it. And then, anything you want. If you want to talk about, hey, what are you going to play in the Super in the Derby? Who do you like in Del Mar's 4th? All the way down to what's your favorite angle? What are you looking for? Anything that you want to ask, we're going to be an open book for an episode. And our plan is to literally just have the whole episode be questions from fans. So this episode 200 is going to be the fan show, and we're excited to do it.
Well, and also part of it is we didn't want to step on the guide. We're not going to preview anything that's happening in Churchill Downs, because that's why we do all that hard work for the guide. And if it's not at Churchill Downs, who the F is going to care what's happening this weekend? So we didn't want to hey, let's go to Saratoga and preview their race. No, nobody's going to care. So we definitely want to be here for you. Man, Dennis is always here every live stream. He's not going to make it. He's out there guarding the Churchill Downs greenhouse. Just make sure you don't have too much tequila when you're on the job. I think a little tequila's fine. It's Kentucky. It'd be better if it was bourbon, but they'll let you go. But
just have a mint julep in your hand. No one will say anything.
Yeah, but Dennis, let us know on Twitter or something like that. But if you have anything you want us to talk about or anything like that, and honestly, guys, this is going to be a lot of fun. So don't be surprised if Mike and I show up with a cocktail or two in hand, and it's just going to be fun. This is a nice little relief before we get into the Derby and everything that we've been waiting for 5 months to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I would love to be we're going to announce our Derby picks. I think everybody knows who we're picking in the Derby, so there's really no drama there. It's a Greeny tease, right? When a Mike Greenberg teases, where it's just so obvious that you don't even really need to tease it. We hope this is a fun way to do 200. And do you really want to hear us talk about Tiz the Law for an hour about why he's going to win?
We'll do it.
Yeah, we'll
do it. Don't challenge us. We'll do it. That's one thing. One of my favorite memories, at least from the past 9-10 months, is how you and I were so just constantly on Tiz the Law, and We were like, it's down between two horses, Tizelaw and Honor AP, and we knew that John and Ryan were going to draft Honor AP, so we didn't have to worry about making a decision. And those are the two horses that, at least, you fast forward, they're the only two that are still part of the conversation, and look at them. I mean, that's considering how poorly our fantasy league just went from the very start the year before. I love that, man, and I think it's a testament to both of our ability to look at the breeding and stature of a horse, and also, a little bit of racing luck. We'll take that, but we needed it this year.
It's like Colin Coward. Where Mike and Magic were right, or where Magic and Mike were right, where Magic and Mike were wrong. Well, we were wrong last year. We were right this year. So it's nice to get one of the two right and to be in the position that we're in. So it'll be fun. And we got to figure out. So the winner of the fantasy league gets to bestow a punishment on the loser, which. Oh man, it's not a punishment really. I think it's kind of awesome, the thing that we have, or the idea that we have. So we'll definitely let you know when we're going to be at the track, because we're going to have a lot of fun with our idea if we're able to hold on against Aaron here. And he's the only one I think who has a legit shot at catching us. So if Tiz gets home, I think that pretty much seals it. But we have a really fun idea. So I really want to win just for the fun idea now.
And it's not the mean stuff that I was thinking up for other people before. So if you're the fans and you're pretty much guaranteed to have this happen to you, we're not. It's not super mean. It's a lot of fun. But
it's fun. It's a fun one. It's not a dick move.
We also get money because everybody buys into the league. So there's a little bit of chicken scratch that comes with it too.
We have to pay for the costume out of that money.
Well, that's usually what happens. Yeah, you take that money and you put it toward. It's not for us to sit home and go, haha, look at all this. I mean, it's not that much money. It's for us to invest in something really fun and cool.
Go Scrooge McDuck style with your $250 under the bed.
Listen, Funny Farm wants to know: does our collector have enough gas to make the mile and a quarter distance? Ask us on Thursday.
There we go.
This is episode 199.
We'll save it.
We'll save it. Yeah, we'll bring
just
it back.
Screenshot that puppy. We'll bring it back and get him in the draw for the T-shirt.
Yeah. Well, once again, we want to thank everybody for sticking with us through 109 episodes. If you weren't with us from the start, please don't go back and listen. It's really bad. It's really bad.
And we're not very good at it. And
And Jared was editing, and everything about that was wrong.
That was the worst part, man. Once we got a better editor, we took off.
The only reason this ship got off the ground is because Jared was editing. If it wasn't for him, hey, maybe Jared Welch makes his first actual appearance on the Magic Mike Show, not an audio clip. Maybe we had, the number, 200 shows him up. By the way,
just pick 5.
Maybe we had Jordan Feldos at pick 5.
Yeah, and also to open up the curtain a little bit, we were considering trading our whole draft for pick 3 to take Tiz the Law.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's how much we wanted, and we were willing to sell the farm. If we knew we were going to lose both of those horses, we knew John and Ryan wouldn't trade off of 2 away from Honor AP. So yeah, we were willing to literally trade every pick. We could have just had 4 picks in rounds 4 and 5. So, and honestly, I don't think we'd be any different, right? Because our second round pick, Bellavia, never raced again.
Didn't go well.
Chestertown never raced well again.
Nope.
Yeah, we should have just done that. And then it would have made even more headlines that
And we still could have gotten Tiz a Magician in the last round. No one was taking him.
Dan, you know what's funny is that Dan was going to take him after us. He was ready to take Tiz a Magician. Yeah.
Got to have your mascot, man.
Yeah. Oh, man, I was going to try and pull up the draft because I remember Aaron took Independence Hall. I was trying to remember.
That wasn't a bad pick either. I
just fell apart.
Yeah, he didn't want to go long and wasn't that good. Pretty rough set.
He should have been better. I've tried. Who else went up there? Not Authentic.
There's a Baffert went too.
No, Honor AP was 2. Little Dennis the man.
Dennis's moment.
Thank you. Yeah. That freaking horse. He raced once. The Breeders' Cup favorite by a country mile races once very shittily as a 3-year-old and disappears. That's that's also how hard this draft is.
Last year's Breeders' Cup 3-year-old Breeders' Cup race, Breeders' Cup Juvenile, or 2-year-old Breeders' Cup race, pretty much the equivalent of the Triple Crown Trail 2 years back. Just don't even remember it. Just forget about it.
Yeah, forgettable. But hey, listen, the last 109 episodes have not been forgettable, and so a large part to you fans. So thank you once again, and hopefully you can join us on Thursday live. If not, like I said, shoot us an email. just, leave it in a reply in a tweet, DM, whatever it is. Just let us know, because otherwise it is going to turn into Mike and I just talking about Tiz the Law for an hour. And unless you're part of Saratoga stable, you probably don't care that much about it.
No, you've probably heard a lot about Tiz the Law by now. I don't think we're the only ones talking about him now.
That's true. Yeah, that's good. Glad to see everybody finally joined us on the bandwagon.
Yeah, took him long enough, man.
Yeah. All right.
Well, everyone cashed the pick 4 last week.
What's that?
Hopefully everyone cashed the pick 4 last week too. Because if you listened, you definitely got it home if you follow along. And the crazy part, I should have singled that freaking one. I sent Magic the email with the one singled in that first race, and then added the 8 because my ticket was so cheap.
Your ticket was $35. Mike actually had the ticket for $35 or something. 37, whatever 75 divided by 2 is. That's what Mike had it as. And I teased him for being. I teased you for, and I think I said 35 when we talked about this last time too. I teased you for being cheap, and then I did that to you. I also want to thank Aaron because when I initially went through that sequence, I was going to go single all because I thought both turf races you could get some prices, and we were right about one of them. That the second leg that we got 7-1 chasing home and 9-1.
Yep.
So we got prices there, but I was so confident in Micro Rhythms and then CZ Rocket to win. I was going to go all, and Aaron talked me off of it because it is bad ticket construction. B, it actually would have cost a little bit more. It would have cost just a tick under 50 when my other ticket was 45. So thanks, Aaron. You helped me out. I learned something and I saved money.
Well, man, we always talk about this angle. I just want to bring it up. When Baffert scratched McHale, that was the giveaway to me too. When you have when you have 2 in a train, it's what I run 2 and 1 will do. When he scratched McHale, you knew that one was going to be big. And we talked about a bunch of reasons on the pod, but man, when that horse came out, that gave me a lot more confidence. I ended up singling that horse in the Silent Bombs in the pick 5, and we were able to hit that pick 5. So yeah, I mean that's there you go. Love it.
You followed both of us. We both had it, but I appreciate the notes.
Magic ticket was cheaper though. Better ROI than me there. But yeah, when he scratched out McHale, you kind of knew that was going to happen. So. Good call by you, buddy.
Listen, I just it took me all freaking meat, but I'm hitting my stride at Del Mar and Saratoga apparently. Now I'm at that point. I think this happened to me last year where I'm like, I got it right at the end. Can we keep going? Because we're going to switch tracks. Oh, damn it. Okay. Start over.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the Del Mar meet now. I'm really liking Del Mar. I mean, we hit a pick 5 the last 2 days. We were very close the day before. Today started off well with 3 winners. Like I'm enjoying the Del Mar meet. I don't want this Del Mar thing to end. Saratoga, you've been a little rough the last few days. Luckily, we had the monster ticket at Saratoga, which paid for the meet. But man, Saratoga's tough right now, especially with the weather up there. And it's one of those underrated things where it's changing the track every single day, and you're not sure, speed or closers. And it's tough, man. It's one of the reasons why it's a tough meet.
Make sure you are checking racenews.com because tomorrow morning, morning for me. Yeah, it's probably still be morning if you're on East Coast time. The Kentucky Derby draw with the full post and everything like that, that's going to be up just like I have the Kentucky Oaks. So make sure you're checking that out. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I am at Curtis Keller. He is at SimoBomb18, number 1, number 8, Corporate Overlords, at Racing_Dudes. And like I mentioned, one last plug for it. The Inside Track to the Kentucky Derby Wagering Guide is available for pre-sale. It'll probably be Thursday when this comes out. We just have so much information that's coming into this from so many different aspects, from Mike, from Saratoga Slim, from Ricky's Rockets, from Vinny from Real Dynasty Picks is submitting. I think Sean Alvarez is going to be submitting his top 4. So lots of stuff going to be in this thing. Well worth the wait. So make sure, if you printed it, it literally would be like a graphic novel style. So make sure you go to racenews.com. You can get that pre-sale ordered in right now. And you know what? We'll see you here for episode 200. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what you guys here to talk about. But hey, until next time, it's been another episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for listening. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
We'll see you next time.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.